Hey, y'all, it's your girl Candy J, your favorite certified clinical sexologist, relationship and intimacy coach, your premarital counselor and marriage counselor, guys. I deal with anxiety, I deal with sex education for all ages, especially that middle school to young adult age. I am a sex educator for all, actually. And one of the things that I love to talk about is couples. So if you have not been to my live before, welcome in. Um, but guys, this live is about trauma, things that can trigger your trauma. And we talked maybe a couple of days ago or so, or sometime this week, we talked about how trauma is an emotional response that is caused by experiencing a single event or a series of events, right? And we kind of talked about it being emotional response, or it can be a chronic emotional response where it's well acute emotional response where it happens during and then shortly after, or it can be a chronic emotional response where it's long term. Okay, and so what I want to talk about right now is the things that can trigger your trauma. Okay, so think about something that is traumatic to you. For instance, I can tell you it's Domestic Violence Month, right? And I am a survivor of domestic violence. I've been divorced for what, almost 6 or 7 years now. And I am thriving, right? But I've healed and gone to therapy, and anybody that is a counselor, therapist, or coach should always have a therapist. I don't care what they say. They should always have one because everyone needs one. Okay. Especially when you take on everybody's stuff all the time, right? And so one of the things that um I think about when I think about trauma, right? I think about what triggers me, and I'm never scared to use myself, right? So there are certain sounds. My ex-husband, he choked me, put me through a wall, right? And so there are certain things, like the TV was playing in the background, and I heard my child say "mama," right? And so there was a certain sense of cologne that he had on that particular day, right? And so those are things that trigger me if I hear certain sounds in the background that I knew I heard that day, or I smell someone like his cologne, right? It could be a trigger at times. And you have to be responsible for managing your trigger, but you also have to know that they're a trigger, right? So let's talk about all the things that could be that can trigger you, right? So it could be sounds, it could be music or sounds that you heard at that day when whatever it happened. Think about a car crash. Anytime that you hear the sound of a car crashing, it could be a trigger for your trauma. It could be people, being around certain people that have been linked to similarities related to your trauma, like other people that have committed domestic violence, other men that are violent and angry like that. Sometimes that could be a trigger, right? Thoughts, certain memories, or thoughts can bring back, all kinds of trauma. What if, one day I'm just reminiscing about our relationship, and then I think about that moment. There could be situations, being in a situation that could make you feel unsafe. What if I was dating someone that had those same tendencies, those same anger issues, those same things where you don't want to talk about things, and so you just act in anger instead of talking about things. That can be a trigger. Feelings, just feeling in pain, unrelated to your trauma, can be enough to be a re-trigger a trauma. So let's just think about, I've said on live before where you can't choke me during sex, right? Choking me during sex is going to immediately go, nope, that's revisiting all of the trauma, right? Even though it had nothing to do with sex at the time that this man choked me, right? It still can cause that feeling. So no, you cannot choke me during sex. Smells, I already told you guys about, certain smells can be linked to the memory. So that cologne always brings back that particular memory. Places that have similarities where this took place. Now, for me, in this particular trauma that I'm using, it was at my apartment. and anything shaped like that, that area that we were in could have been, a trigger. Luckily it's not, but for someone else it might be, right? The death of anyone involved in your trauma. Think about it. Let's see. Think about if someone is in a car accident, or maybe you were in a car accident with them, and that person, the driver died and you survived. Or maybe your person died in a hospital, and every time that you go to the hospital, right, and now Aunt Susie is in the hospital, and she died, and now that triggers you back to the trauma where someone else that was close to you passed away. All kinds of things can cause your trauma. Media, seeing something on social media, movie scenes, news reports that are similar to your trauma. Think about the people that have that get stopped by the police, and they have some type of traumatic event with the police, and now every time they see something across the screen that's on CNN, ABC, all kinds of different news channels, now it triggers them to be a part of that event again, and it re-traumatizes them. Now here's the thing, guys. In order to make sure, because here's the thing, some people say that oh, you haven't dealt with what you've been through if it triggers you. That's not true. You can be completely have dealt with it, gone through all of the stages of grief and the trauma, denial, anger, bitterness, depression, acceptance, all of those things. You could have gone through that. You could have, even if it was severe trauma, PTSD, you could have gone through all of the therapy that you needed, but it still can be a trigger, and it's okay. But here's the difference: being self-aware of your triggers is helping you to manage your triggers. It's all about managing your triggers. It's not that their trigger may never go away. You no matter how long it's been for me, you can never choke me during sex. It doesn't matter. It's always going to be a trigger for me, and it just evokes a feeling in me automatically, right? And then I have a client that her mom died in a car accident. She is so scared of getting in the same type of vehicle that her mom was in. So and over time we've gotten her to get in similar cars like that, but she can't get back into the same vehicle like that because her mom got thrown out of that vehicle. So it's understandable, and she manages her trigger well. She just sets her boundaries with people. If they have that particular car, then she won't get in that particular vehicle. She'll drive herself, or she'll catch an Uber or a Lyft. And sometimes that's just what you have to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. So definitely seek assistance. There's coaches, there's counselors, there's therapists, there's people out here to help you acknowledge your trigger, and then help you to manage your trigger, and help you to deal with whatever that trauma was. Okay. And so therapy works, counseling works, coaching definitely works, guys. So my name is Candy J. I am thankful and elated that you came to watch here today. Guys, remember to ring that bell and come back for more mental health tips, more sexual education tips, more relationship tips. And let me know if there's something that you would like to hear me talk about so that we can address it. That's what I'm here for. But definitely DM me. Okay, guys? Have a wonderful day.